You pick any small Texas town in the fall on a Friday night.
Let's go!
If you are looking for locals, they are right here.
Thank you.
Nobody does high school football like we do high school football. This is a big part of what makes our state great. This is who we are. But like everything else, it ain't perfect.
If their findings do find something of a criminal nature, okay, that's fine. That has not happened yet.
Our unenviable task over the last few months has been to peel back the pageantry.
Try this one more time.
We've been trying to get to the truth of what really happened between some Montgomery High School football players.
Thank you for calling Cyberbully Hotline.
The first tip came in by phone to a school district hotline. That was September 27th. What's since been loosely described as a possible hazing incident.
We've been up here several times. We're trying to reach the superintendent.
But to put it plainly,
he's with someone right now.
For almost 2 months, nobody in power was talking about it.
That's how it goes every time.
It's one thing not to talk about it publicly, but even high-level district trustees appear to be in the dark.
I don't think he's handled it right. I'm offended that I have not been included in some direction of some kind.
Hey, how's it going? Anybody want to talk to the news?
We're not showing you the faces of anyone under 18, but we can tell you that Montgomery High School students have sensed that something's been off about the way the districts responded.
We take it seriously, but it's like
we know that
we just make fun of the school because they're so dumb.
Why the school so dumb?
Because they won't handle it properly.
Really? You even sensed that as a kid?
Yes, they will not handle it properly.
Perhaps a lack of clarity about what really happened to those students can be explained away because the victims are minors. But why the investigation has dragged along for 7 weeks has been unsettling for parents.
The fact that we don't respond to you doesn't mean we can disagree with you or agree with you. We just can't talk about it.
At an earlier school board information session, little information was released, and some parents weren't happy about that.
I mean, you see, what's this investigation been like?
Then, just last week, another meeting, but still no answers.
We're not getting any information.
Part of the problem is that the criminal probe is bounced from one agency to the next. The ISD police handed off investigation to the sheriff's office. The DA's office, citing a personal conflict of interest, handed off prosecution to the county attorney's office. We knocked on a lot of doors in this town. And we talked to a lot of people, regular people, about this case and the delays.
All right. Just keep on keeping on.
There are about 6,000 who live inside Montgomery's city limits, a small historically significant town, now growing up fast.
Let's do this.
We found out if you really want to know what's happening here, Adele Hansen is who you should listen to.
Should already be rolling, that's for sure.
Hansen owns Garrett House Antiques. This place in the center of town is the unofficial Chamber of Commerce. And Adele's take?
Well, they need to figure out why it happened and what happened and take care of it.
Perhaps that's what was missing. Adele's declaration to do something. Because finally, late last week, a big development.
We just got the full investigation from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office this past Tuesday.
We now know there were a total of 7 victims. 5 student suspects, some technically adults. The victims were fully clothed, but at 2 off-campus events, violated in some way, with crutches, pool sticks, and sports drink bottles.
Most of them indicate that it didn't even come close to any kind of active penetration, and the ones who did get poked sort of in the middle of the buttocks area also deny that this was any kind of active sodomy, that it was just this momentary act of hazing.
Adults were apparently on the premises but did not witness the hazing. And for all of it, the investigations, the meetings, the worry, no criminal charges will be filed, at least not right now. Instead, informal probation for perpetrators who were once victims too.
The complexity is, with most of these kids, they're perpetrators here, but of course they've been victims of the exact same thing in the past by virtue of it being an initiation rite of sorts. So I think even in this instance, it appears there are some people who may have been initiated and then turned around and been part of an initiation on someone else, almost immediately thereafter.
These high school hazing cases can get ugly. Kids are getting seriously hurt. Tomorrow night, a wider view of this problem, and it is wide. One organization says 200 new cases of hazing pop up every week in the U.S. Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
He said from the moment that he came on campus, it just felt right.
Because it was such hard work, I think that everybody that was out there was doing it because they loved it.
Parents of students who attend A&M are counting their blessings.
And they wanted it to be brighter and bigger and better than the year before.
It swayed just a little bit.
At 2:43 this morning, a rich and sacred Aggie tradition had fallen.
There was little time to think.
It's one of those phone calls in the middle of the night, and you dread those because it's usually bad news.
I wasn't sure if I was paralyzed.
Paramedics removed 28 people who were hit by falling timber, some critically hurt.
My husband's comment then was, I know where my son's going, and I don't want to put him through hell to get to heaven.
In College Station, Aggie life is one of custom, principles. Perhaps prime among them a pile of posts that symbolized pride. For 90 years, Bonfire burned Thanksgiving week, a tower of timber built by students, leading up to the big A&M UT football game.
Right up the middle.
To build it meant you were all in, an Aggie, true and through.
He wanted to have fun in everything that he did.
Tim Curley Jr. knew that. He was a fish, a first year in A&M's Corps of Cadets whose job was to build the stack, securing logs as they crept up and up. Tim was 17. He'd tested out of his first year. Hard work was never a stranger. Although from Tennessee, Tim felt at home at A&M.
You know, the muster and silver taps and saying howdy, things like this.
Things like the stack. Things went on as they did, although freshmen were up top now, securing logs with wire to the commands of seniors down below. That's how it went. Tradition.
I was out there because I loved building it.
John Comstock, another freshman, was right up there with Tim. 1 week to the day of Thanksgiving, 1999. The morning tradition took a turn. 2:42 a.m.
It just swayed a little bit, and then the whole structure just started to fall over.
Tradition turned to tragedy as a symbol of school pride came crashing down.
There was a number of people that were on the stack and that were caught under the stack as well.
Tim was among that number. His parents rushed to Texas, where they had to make a decision that no person, let alone a parent, would want to make.
It takes a lot of strength for you and your husband to reach that conclusion.
We know he had fought hard to stay alive, but he didn't have to fight anymore. And a single tear strolled down his face. And we asked, are you in pain? And it was no.
Tim Curley passed away, the 12th life claimed by a collapse of timber.
Tim was Bonfire's 12th man.
John Comstock knows that fight to live.
I started to take a turn downhill. And that's when they decided that the bone in my left leg was rotting from the inside out. And so they had to make the decision to amputate.
We're back here. The bonfire is getting lit now.
Comstock's story is the focus of a new documentary called The 13th Man. Poetic, the reference, not because of what he almost became, but who he is after the fall.
I speak to this day under the name The 13th Man.
Life cycle is turned 2 decades over since that morning. A&M hasn't had another official bonfire since then, yet embers of the stack collapse linger.
I've relived a lot of good memories, and we have a ton of them. And to me, the good memories are what help you heal.
Direct to Hobby, 4252 golf.
She made sure that everything was perfect.
In June 2016, 46-year-old Dana Gray, her husband Tony, and his brother Jerry were on a mission.
Jerry and Tony's dad was in the hospital in Houston.
The plan was for Dana Gray, a pilot with more than 300 hours experience, to fly the trio from their home in Oklahoma to Houston Hobby. That's the thing about Hobby. It can be a busy commercial airport.
Unfortunately, these controllers at Houston Hobby don't
don't have the training that we had years ago in sequencing and spacing.
Yeah, and actually I might end up sequencing you behind that traffic. It's on 4 miles a minute. It is going to be a little bit tight.
Since big planes fly faster than small planes, spacing is critical, and in this situation, a repetitive problem.
Yeah, I got traffic behind you, just go around.
Within seconds of first contact with pilot Dana Gray, Hobby's Tower disregards not only a best practice, but a written letter of agreement.
Compliance with that letter of agreement is mandatory.
That document mandates that missed landings, so-called go-arounds, be transferred to another set of air traffic controllers across town, who specialize in sequencing planes for landing. But they didn't do it.
They did not have any idea what they were doing.
Yeah, I'm just getting goosebumps again, just thinking of it.
We'll either do 4, or we might swing you around to 3-5. But, ma'am, straighten up, straighten up.
They killed my family, honestly. They killed my family.
3 separate Hobby air traffic controllers, one of them in training, gave pilot Dana Gray complicated, confusing, even conflicting landing instructions.
Make a turn left heading 30 degrees.
That's the trainee controller telling Gray to circle back left during her first go-around. But seconds later, a different voice, now the trainer, wonders why she's headed left.
Did you want to follow the 737 runway 4?
One hand doesn't know what the other one's doing.
So am I turning a right base now, 4252 Golf?
We're 5-2 Golf, Roger. Just maneuver back for the straight in. I don't know which way you're going now.
The pilot is ultimately in command of their aircraft. If they can't comply with ATC instructions, they are to tell the controller that.
After 16 minutes, 3 go-arounds, and a shift change, now a third Hobby controller.
5-2 Golf, you have runway 35 in sight.
But pilot and tower are just unable to come together for a safe landing.
Straighten up, straighten up.
She bends that thing over and goes straight into the parking lot.
The NTSB faulted both the pilot and Hobby air traffic controllers for the crash that killed the Grays.
I didn't understand, all the runaround and the directions and why. Still to this day, I'm not sure why.
Channel 2 Investigates found an NTSB interview with a Hobby Tower manager that sheds light. James Kinkler said, quote, he could not explain recent issues at Hobby, but found some people, quote, weren't engaged like they should have been. He graded Hobby Tower management a C to C-. Kinkler was then transferred. He now works in Atlanta, home of the busiest airport in the world.
Until this happens to you, you don't really realize how important their job is.
It was the week of July 16th, 1969.
I got out of the car and I thought, we have trained so long. And I thought, okay, this is the day we're going to do it.
So let's do it.
Tough and competent.
We became hard, still hard.
Teamwork and diligence.
You've never seen teamwork like you have until you work at NASA.
Duty and determination.
We knew we were going to go all the way.
Commander Neil Armstrong made it clear this was for everyone.
And the last line says, we came in peace for all mankind. I think that's precisely what we mean.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
On July 16th, on historic launch pad 39A at Cape Canaveral, the Saturn V catapulted the spacecraft to a maximum velocity of 25,000 miles per hour.
Every second, it meant that those humans were going faster than anyone had ever gone, and that they were leaving the Earth.
Columbia, Houston, we'll have LOS at 101.
Around 100 hours into the flight, after successfully entering lunar orbit, Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin transferred into the snug lunar module.
LM looks to be in pretty fine shape. About all we can see from here.
Command module pilot Michael Collins stayed in Columbia, orbiting the moon, ready to help.
Listen, Dave, everything's going just swimmingly. Beautiful. Great. We're standing by for Eagle.
Collins' role was critical. He was their lifeline should things go wrong. But with failure not an option, it was time.
The descent was roughly about 12 minutes long, and it was a battle.
Verify that both S-band breakers are in, over.
Communicating with the astronauts was Capcom controller Charlie Duke.
It was really tense in mission control. As the closer we got, the more tense it became.
Painstaking calculations and razor-sharp checkpoints. Mission control hung tough.
Are we going to get the landing radar? Because the crew was descending to the moon with information we provided them from the ground, which could have been several thousand feet in air.
The way they flew, Neil was looking out the window all the time, and Buzz was reading altitude and speed and things like that to him.
The crew was landing long, headed towards a crater. Then
1202 alarm.
You know them so well that you know inherently by the tone of their voice and everything like that, that what's going on.
Give us a reading on the 1202 program alarm.
an unfamiliar alarm.
The computer was basically running out of time to do all the functions it had to do.
We're going, that alarm?
Laid the burden upon me to say, do we have enough data to continue?
With little time to troubleshoot, Guidance Officer Steve Bales made the call. It was just a nuisance alarm.
Roger, we got you. We're going, that alarm.
But now the crew was running extremely low on fuel.
We're moving towards our abort limit, but we'll watch it pretty close.
Eagle Houston, you're a go for landing, over.
But then...
1201. Roger, 1201. Same type, we'll go, flight. Okay, we're go. We're go. Same type, we're go.
Another nuisance. But the relief was short-lived. They had less than a minute before they ran out of fuel.
60 seconds.
Are they going to make it? Are they going to make it?
Picking up from that. 30 seconds.
In mission control, we have handles on the television in there. You grab that handle and you're holding on for life.
With just seconds to go, Armstrong, a seasoned test pilot, picked a smoother place to land, in the Sea of Tranquility.
He knew where he was, and he knew where he was in that process.
4 forward, drift into the right level.
About the time we would have said 15 seconds, we recognized the crew's going through engine shutdown.
Contact light.
The team had done it for the world.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
And that was the way I felt. The whole room was that way.
People watched from all over the world. Though in mission control, a short-lived moment and back to work. Just upstairs in the viewing room, uncontrollable joy.
The people in the viewing room were what broke the code. They started stamping and cheering and everything else. All of a sudden, this noise filters into the room, and my controllers start to catch it.
Okay, keep the chatter down in this room.
This team on Earth helped put the American flag on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
At the moment it happened, you had a sense of pride, exhilaration.
This certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made from the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done.
But the mission wasn't over.
Unfortunately, we were so involved in the technical aspects of it that we kind of missed the wow part of it.
After 8 days on July 24th, 1969, the Apollo 11 capsule splashed down in the Pacific Ocean.
Anytime you get the crew back on Earth, that's successful.
And only then did this team truly realize the gravity of what man had done.
Walked out of the car and cried. It dawned on me what we had done.
It lifted the whole country.
And 50 years later,
In the mornings when I'd go out to get the paper, I would look up and see the moon and say, by God, we were there. And so yeah, I looked at it differently.
This is a very precious time for, I think, everyone in the room, because we'd like to do it over again, only join the rest of the world celebrating the landing.
Every investigation is a journey. This one starts right here.
Nice little day, isn't it?
You're about to see an introduction, handshake, and a lightning-fast denial.
I'm with KPRC Channel 2 in Houston, NBC.
Okay.
Is it possible we can take our cameras into the facility here?
Oh no, they don't do any photography inside.
This is not a top-secret government facility. It's the tiny town of Hearne, Texas, a speck on the map 2.5 hours northwest of Houston. Not much action in town, but there's plenty of business behind the tall fencing at the local airport.
They're really strict about cameras.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps it's because the government does not want you to see what Sky 2 captured early one Saturday morning in January. FEMA trailers designated for use after Hurricane Harvey. Dozens upon dozens lined up, ready to be sold at massive discounts. Units deployed after the storm. But Channel 2 Investigates discovered some are brand new, never been lived in, and the feds are selling them to the highest bidder.
I say FEMA, you say?
I'm not allowed to say that. I don't want to say that word.
Anita Shiflett nearly lost everything in Harvey. Her family qualified for FEMA housing, a government contractor informing them they had room for a manufactured housing unit.
There was no question, no problem. And then we get the RV.
Instead of a manufactured home, they received this 28-foot travel trailer.
As soon as they brought that trailer here, we were fighting.
Battling for one of FEMA's MHU units.
They promised it, but they gave it to somebody else.
So imagine her reaction when we showed her what we discovered on the federally owned GSA Auctions website.
We're 10 minutes away from the closing bid on a 2018 manufactured home in Hearn.
Wow.
For weeks, Channel 2 Investigates monitored the auction of FEMA trailers. The vast majority, 2017 and 2018 models. Units with unwrapped new furniture. Opening bids, $100.
I bought it from the FEMA sale.
Donnie Ganaway met us days after picking up his new purchase in Hearn.
I think I got this trailer for $19,244.
Inside of Donnie's 2018 Southern Energy model, we found a sparkling new oven, an immaculate fridge with paperwork still inside, even an activation tag in the smoke alarm. There were new drawers, spotless carpet, and a mattress still wrapped in plastic. Most revealing, documents detailing a manufacture date months after Harvey.
It's amazing. I can't explain it, but they have their way of doing things, and why, I don't know.
The state says FEMA's reimbursing them nearly $45,000 for units like this one. The federal agency admits to Channel 2 Investigates their average is $64,500 when they buy the units, with some topping out at $70,000. And let's not forget, Donnie bought his never-lived-in trailer at auction for just over $19,000.
Were you surprised that you got it?
I was excited.
FEMA admits it periodically sells surplus housing units, adding that manufactured homes that were never occupied but stored for several years begin to fail with time. And keep in mind, some trailers are like new and stored for less than a year. The message from Anita and Donnie, a simple one.
We're going to need them again. These areas are going to flood again.
I would save them and reuse them.
911, what's your emergency?
An emergency spilled about a Fifth Ward parking lot. A dice game believed the beginning of what would be Earl Perry's final moments. A dice game, the focal point of one deadly dilemma.
Mr. Burks, how are you?
One for which Lamar Burks has done hard time. Nearly 19 years for murder. Convicted of a crime Burks says he didn't commit. Couldn't have committed, he insists.
Did you at all even know Early Perry?
No. Never seen the guy, never met him a day in my life.
June 30th, 1997, the parking lot of T's Restaurant, the scene, the after-hours spot for food after a night out across Cavalcade Street at Mr. A's Club. That's where a group stopped by for a dice game, Earl Perry among them, and after a disagreement, bullets flew. Perry was shot 3 times, according to his autopsy, the fatal blow to the back.
Where were you?
Well, I was in Louisiana, en route to my sister's wedding.
Burks's alibi hasn't changed since his first arrest, shortly after the killing, although prosecutors eventually dropped the charge after their sole witness said it was a case of mistaken identity. So how did they circle back to Burks? Seems a larger, more complex tale strings that together. Burks claims a crooked DEA agent locked him up. Now others who say they were there that early morning support his claims.
Had you heard of Chad Scott and Jack Schumacher prior to your case?
Sure, I mean, their names were in the street, you couldn't, especially in the hip-hop community.
In the 1990s, the hip-hop community thrived in Houston, and none moved the needle more than Rap-A-Lot Records. Burks was right in the middle of it, with his own label.
I started in 1992. One of the first groups I had was Insane Clan, and I had a group, Pluto, and a few more other acts.
The DEA, including one of their big guys, Chad Scott, took note of that scene, made arrests too.
These agents, they were out of control. They were just, it's heartbreaking, it's frightening, you know, and I'm glad that they've been taken off the street.
These days, Agent Chad Scott finds himself on house arrest. A jury in New Orleans convicted him last month on 7 counts. Overall, corruption was the case prosecutors gave him. Perjury, obstruction of justice, falsifying government records. The allegations stem from Scott's work as a DEA agent north of New Orleans after he transferred out of the Houston area. And since federal investigators zeroed in on Scott, convicted felons have walked free. Prosecutors asking a judge to dismiss their charges, claiming Scott coerced witnesses into giving false testimony. As for Lamar Burks, the prosecution had 3 key witnesses. The first, who testified only to a grand jury, now says in a sworn statement Scott coerced him, resulting in Burks being recharged in 2000.
They were pretty dangerous.
The second, one of 2 gunmen on the scene that night.
That night there, I never seen Lamar not one time.
That's right. The second witness has flipped too. Clayton Brown was also convicted in Earl Perry's shooting death.
Who pulled the trigger?
I pulled the trigger, and Durbin pulled the trigger.
Brown served 5 years, says he saw a commotion at T's, ran over to help his friend, Darabin. Actions Brown says he now regrets.
When you say you fired your gun, why did you do that?
Because this is my friend, this is a guy from the hood that I growed up with, and I felt like he was in harm's way and he was outnumbered.
Now, in sworn testimony, Brown claims he provided a false statement, says he did so out of fear.
After I heard this guy got locked up and was charged, so I was like, now it's the perfect time for us to tell the truth now. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to worry about nobody trying to come kick our door in and kill us. You know, because they saying this guy, Chad Scott, this is what he was known for doing.
Multiple officers shot.
Nearly 100 days later,
We have the house surrounded, we got units in the back, we still got officers inside.
the botched Harding Street raid is still unraveling. Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle are dead. Members of HPD's narcotics team have left the force or are under investigation. And Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo still has not turned over the case to the District Attorney's Office for review.
And let me tell you why I think these cops are heroes.
On January 28th, it was chaos on Harding Street. Within the first few hours, HPD brass raced in front of cameras, attempting to defend their officers, not knowing what had really happened.
Because we had a search warrant that narcotics activity was going on in that residence, specifically the sale of black tar heroin.
The next morning, Chief Acevedo continued to build the narrative.
We actually bought black tar heroin at that location.
The couple portrayed as drug dealers without fear of the law.
A male suspect came from around the back and started an open fire with a .357 Magnum. A female suspect went towards that officer, reached over the officer, and started making a move for his shotgun.
On January 31st, Chief Acevedo revealed HPD's Narcotics Division began an investigation after officers responded to a 911 call outside the home weeks earlier.
What's the details on the call slip? Daughter's at the location. She possibly thinks there's drugs, guns inside the residence.
The officer wrote a detailed note within the call slip history to document their actions, what they had learned, and what they had done.
Our investigation revealed the officer's call slip had no details, and no police report was actually filed after that 911 call. But the story behind the raid really fell apart the morning of February 15th.
Channel 2 investigates, learning this morning there are big problems.
Documents revealed lying cops manufactured an unlawful warrant, giving officers the green light to go in without knocking. Hours after we broke the story, Chief Acevedo doubled down on his department's actions.
It's really important for the community to realize we still had a reason to be at that home. We should not draw final conclusions, as disturbing as it is, until we uncover every single investigative lead.
Chief, you indicated you had reason to be at that home. There appears to be no reason listed in this affidavit.
But to remember, that affidavit is but one piece of a very comprehensive investigation.
5 days later, the FBI gets involved.
They have opened a formal civil rights investigation.
District Attorney Kim Ogg's office also is investigating and announced it's reviewing more than 2,200 cases tied to the case agent, Gerald Goings, and fellow narcotics officer Stephen Bryant.
People are going to see what really happened. We'll get to the truth. I think you can expect to see something, a case presented or cases presented to grand juries this summer.
Investigators have filed a barrage of search warrants aimed at Goings and Bryant, seeking data from their phones and offices.
This is a very active crime scene.
Mike Doyle, a lawyer for the Nicholas family, claims his team found sloppy forensics work at the home, evidence uncollected by investigators.
There's bullets still on the walls. There's blood trails all over the house that there's no indication of DNA being collected.
Channel 2 Investigates is the only TV station to go inside the home. We did so on April 16th with Cliff Tuttle.
Look at that. A man 5'6". What are they shooting at?
Cliff made his position clear.
Do you feel that the cops had a reason to be inside this home?
No. Definitely not.
Do you trust HPD with their investigation?
Not totally. Somebody made a bad mistake. Somebody needs to pay. We need the answers.
They're a lifeline for 600,000 people. If you need an ambulance on the Northwest side, almost certainly it'll be one of theirs.
Cypress Creek EMS is a not-for-profit.
In fact, Cypress Creek EMS is funded with millions of your property tax dollars, about $15 million this year. Your money pays their employees, and that includes this guy who's manning the grill. His name is Tony Gorley. He's part of Cypress Creek EMS administration. He also runs their vehicle maintenance facility. Cy Creek's fleet is pretty simple, 23 Ford ambulances and 2 Ford Expeditions. Oddly though, day after day, we noticed all manner of other vehicles in their garage. Jeeps and pickups, even this 1930 Model A Ford. Oh, and this is a Channel 2 employee at the Cypress Creek EMS garage, and he's about to get a brake job.
Just doing pads and not the rotors?
Remember, these guys are not only on the clock, they're on your dime.
What was your name again? Tony? Tony?
Tony agrees to give our guy a deal, $105 for front pads, and there's the van on the lift. Inside of an hour, this deal is done.
Does 100 cool? Or do you guys don't take a card, do you? No, sir, we don't. I got 100. That's fine. Not a problem. I've never heard or seen anything like that before, and I've been doing this a long time.
Kevin Brost is a board member of ESD 11. That's the group that doles out all those tax dollars to Cypress Creek EMS every year. Turns out Tony's been ordering parts for all sorts of vehicles, Toyota, Honda, Infiniti. Those aren't ambulances, but he's still been using the Cypress Creek EMS account, and we wanted to know who's paying for those parts.
There's definitely questions that need to be answered here.
Tony, I'm Joel Eisenbaum with Channel 2.
No, sir, you need to get
Can I talk to you for just a second?
No, sir.
Tony wasn't in a talking mood when I met him. Can you tell me more about that, sir?
Please get out of my shop.
Can you just tell us exactly how this works?
Please get out of my shop. Please get out of my shop.
How come you're taking private cars and doing work here? You're wearing a Cypress Creek EMS shirt, yet you're taking private cars and doing work on them? Pocketing that cash? Cypress Creek's EMS director would not agree to an interview about our discovery, but he did pen a quick note. Basically, thanks, we'll definitely investigate. But they won't be alone. ESD number 11 tells us they're launching a probe too, one that could ultimately impact that seemingly endless flow of tax dollars. A recent forensic audit found Cypress Creek EMS has some significant accounting irregularities. We got a hold of the document, and you can read it for yourself on click2houston.com. Just head over to the Investigate section. Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Channel 2 Investigates caught him in the act, an employee of the Cypress Creek EMS taking cash to do repairs on private cars while working on a taxpayer dime at the agency's maintenance garage. Immediately following our report, the agency took quick action, but leaders over there really didn't want to talk to us about what we uncovered. Investigator Joel Eisenbaum wasn't going to just walk away from this story. Tonight, he's getting results revealing what happened to the employee and why there's now a criminal investigation into the entire matter.
Just a few weeks ago,
Just doing pads and not the rotors?
we caught him red-handed, on the clock and on your dime.
Is 100 cool? Or you guys don't take a card, do you? No, sir, we don't. I got 100. That's fine. Not a problem.
At their ambulance maintenance facility, a Cypress Creek EMS administrator took cash from us to fix our old van. Other employees were clearly privy to this scheme too, a big problem because these folks are being paid with your property tax dollars to fix our car. Heck, looks like lots of cars, judging by what we saw in the garage. And you've paid more than 100 million tax dollars to Cypress Creek EMS since 2011.
Tony, I'm Joel Eisenbaum with Channel 2.
No, sir, you need to get...
Can I talk to you for just a second?
No, sir.
Nobody within Cypress Creek EMS would answer our questions like, why are you using the official EMS account to buy parts for Toyotas, Hondas, and Infinitis? Those aren't ambulances. But instead of that answer, we got a letter from their lawyer to leave them alone and stay off their property. Our lawyer wrote a letter back, politely urging them to reconsider.
We have some guests to introduce. I'll start with Mr. Eisenbaum.
Since our investigation, we've actually sat in on 2 meetings because we really want to know how Cypress Creek EMS is handling our discovery.
We have no idea how the information got to Channel 2.
Doesn't seem like the important part, does it? Isn't the important part to stop ripping off taxpayers? With that goal in mind, we again tried to talk to Cypress Creek EMS director, the top dog, Brad England.
Corruption in an organization, you're the head of the organization. You don't want to say a few words about this?
Public information officer that does it.
We've taken, very swift and very direct action, but there's still some things ongoing that we just can't comment.
By attending the meetings they didn't want us to, we did learn the maintenance manager who took our money is no longer with the organization. And Cypress Creek EMS has refunded now $38,317.39 in salaries and employee insurance back to the taxing entity that doles out your money. But that doesn't settle the matter. Our investigation has led to a criminal investigation.
I'm not going to go into the details of those internal control issues because last week, in addition to the investigation, we have asked the Harris County Sheriff's Department to open a criminal investigation into certain findings that we made in the course of the investigation.
If you've ever paid a property tax bill, we imagine you want all of that money you send to the government going to good use. It's because of that we'll stay on this. Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Commissioner Rodney Ellis is a fixture in Houston politics.
If there are other health-related dollars.
A familiar face at Commissioner's Court as well as around town, according to this, his latest campaign finance report.
I go overboard on making sure I disclose not only what's required, but give as much detail as I can.
Ellis's campaign finance report from July to December of last year is 268 pages long. And when you compare it to his commission colleagues, as you can see here, Ellis overwhelms them. Ellis has a robust campaign war chest, and even though he is not up for re-election until 2020, he is spending campaign funds like he is in the middle of a tight race.
Do you have any campaign offices at this time?
No.
Do you have any staff?
No staff.
Have you officially launched?
No, I have not.
Channel 2 Investigates found Ellis buying campaign phone services, storage, even a campaign computer from Best Buy on Christmas Eve. If he can't buy in person, Ellis goes online.
If you have no campaign office, sir, what are you purchasing on Amazon?
I'd have to go and look and see.
A total of 17 purchases via Amazon for supplies or equipment. And he's shopping at grocery stores too. 8 purchases alone at this Whole Foods in Upper Kirby. Ellis says he uses his campaign funds to supplement his county office expenses.
Look, I just did lunch with my staff today. Now,
You do plenty of lunches, by the way.
We paid for it all for the campaign, but if I'm eating with my staff members, Arguably, I could charge that to the office, but why get criticized for that?
Ellis is quick to point out he is not using taxpayer money, but it's not his own money either. The funds come from campaign donors, money to help him get reelected. But let's not forget.
Have you officially launched?
No, I have not.
But he has a campaign vehicle, a Cadillac Escalade. Records show it made 27 visits to Mr. Car Wash on Kirby between July and December of last year.
Hey, we put in a lot of miles.
Thousands of miles in the air as well. Last September, Ellis spent more than $10,000 from campaign funds for business class flights and a Ritz-Carlton stay in Barcelona, Spain for an oil and gas conference. When the conference wrapped, Ellis then took a cross-country trip to Sevilla to learn about bikes.
You said you were in Sevilla for bike infrastructure.
Yes.
But what's fascinating is that on your campaign report, you said you were at the Gas Tech conference.
Well, I did both.
Gas Tech conference is here in Barcelona. Sevilla is 618 miles away, sir.
Yeah, so what are you looking at here?
The conference is over. I'm looking at your report.
The trip was charged to the campaign for over $1,200 in transportation and hotel costs. Remember, Ellis admits the trip was non-campaign related.
When I went to Sevilla, a good part of it, maybe most of it, I probably paid for. I may have charged for a meal or something else.
This whole thing is credit card expenditures.
Bay Scoggin is with the government watchdog Texas Public Interest Research Group.
Look, I'm not gonna lie to you, this stinks.
The state's election code has statutes that say politicians cannot use campaign contributions for personal use. And Rice political science professor Mark Jones says it appears that is exactly what Ellis is doing.
It would appear that Rodney Ellis is using some of his campaign funds to fund things that most people would consider to be personal expenses.
Ellis says in his mind, the spending is justified and the expenses are legal.
If I'm flying on my personal business, I'm gonna fly business class if it's international.
And you'll use the dollars that other people gave you to do so.
Yeah.
Mayor, what is your relationship with Marvin Agumagu?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a simple question for Mayor Sylvester Turner. Simple, but important. Because Marvin Agumagu is someone Mayor Turner knows and has taken care of. Signing off on a $95,000 a year internship for Agumagu at the airport last fall. That's right, $95,000 a year with benefits for an internship. Before we lay out how it happened, let's show you how the mayor and Marvin are connected. Personnel records show Agumagu was a City Hall intern. He also worked in the office of late council member Larry Green. Photos and videos reveal Agumagu had insider access.
Marvin from Nigeria, also on my staff, working at the airport system.
Here's Agumagu next to the mayor at a charity basketball game. There's Mayor Turner, the rapper Drake, and Agumagu, handing Drake a city honor on the mayor's cue. During the Astros World Series parade, Agumagu was yards away from the mayor, working with his staff along the parade route, and steps away from the mayor at City Hall for the celebration. Agumagu also was listed as a guest of Mayor Turner at a banquet honoring the late Texans owner Bob McNair. But Agumagu was looking to land something bigger. On September 12, 2018, months after his previous internship with the city ended, he wrote to Andy Icken, the city's chief development officer, a key member of the mayor's inner circle. Per Mayor Turner's request, I am sending you my resume for your review. Icken forwards the email to Airport Director Mario Diaz, asking point blank, could you develop a position? 5 words, key to what we uncovered. Could you develop a position? Emails Channel 2 Investigates obtained clearly show a plan was hatched with 2 city directors specifically developing a position for Agumagu. On September 19th, Agumagu received a verbal offer. Director Diaz, writing Icken, I offered him a 1-year internship to work directly for me. Icken's response? Good approach. And the approach, developing a one-of-a-kind internship out of thin air is key, because around the same time, Mayor Turner was telling the public the city didn't have money to hire employees.
I have imposed a hiring freeze.
The mayor ordered the freeze on September 24th, stating all departments will suspend hiring.
My case is based on the facts
and the costs.
But on October 4th, Director Diaz sends Mayor Turner this letter touting Agumagu as the first candidate for the newly created Executive Intern Program. The internship will give Mr. Agumagu the opportunity to gain valuable applied experience, Diaz wrote. There's one incredible perk not listed in the letter, but that Channel 2 Investigates uncovered. Once the 12 to 18-month internship wraps up, Agumagu, not his boss Diaz, but Agumagu the intern, decides if he's coming on board full-time. In the very same letter from Diaz to the mayor, Agumagu hits the jackpot. Diaz writes to Mayor Turner, based on the responsibilities, needs, and demands of the job, he's requesting annual pay of $95,000 a year, the salary equivalent of a senior staff analyst. Suddenly, the intern is making more than other veteran airport employees with more experience. Let's recap. Marvin Agumagu has history with the mayor and City Hall. He needs a job. Per the mayor's request, Agumagu emails one of the mayor's top guys. That guy then emails the airport director, who in turn creates a gem of a gig just for Agumagu, an internship that pays a whopping $95,000 a year with public dollars from the Enterprise Fund used for special projects out here at the airport. Conveniently, that fund is not at all impacted by the hiring freeze.
It's shocking to me that they're trying to pass this off as a true internship.
Todd Slobin is a Houston-based employment attorney.
Fundamentally, this is not how internships work.
I don't know what this particular intern was doing, but it must be really important.
Buck Wood is viewed by many as the foremost political ethics expert in Texas.
If a member of a city council, the mayor, let's say, wants to call somebody and say, look, our department, and say, I really would like for y'all to consider this person, that's not illegal.
How does it smell, though, when it's a $95,000 a year internship?
Well, that puts a different light on it.
Per Mayor Turner's request is how this all began. Mayor Turner's signature officially sealed the sweetheart deal weeks later, which brings us back to one key question. What makes Marvin Agumagu so special that Mayor Turner created this nearly $100,000 a year internship for him?
There's got to be something, and I think the mayor's the only person who knows the answer to that question.
Mayor, what is your relationship with Marvin Agumagu?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Mayor, you have no idea who Marvin Agumagu is?
I have no idea.
You created an internship for Marvin Agumagu last year, sir, that pays $95,000 a year. Here's the document, sir. Here is your signature right here. Mayor Turner, we'd love to talk to you about this internship that pays $95,000 a year that you created for someone you say you have no idea who I'm talking about. Now, most won't blame Marvin Agumagu for taking this sweetheart deal. He was, after all, encouraged to reach out by Mayor Turner. The mayor's spokesperson says Agumagu's internship is coming to an end and a new candidate will be chosen for the role. However, we do not know if Agumagu will stay on at the airport. Now, we did reach out to Agumagu. We have not heard back. Dominique and Keith, you heard the mayor clearly say he has no idea who Marvin Agumagu is, but the evidence here clearly shows otherwise. And tomorrow night at 10, Channel 2 Investigates will dive deeper into this internship program, what it entails, and we will have more reaction.
More than a dozen members of the University of Houston women's soccer team diagnosed with a potentially deadly condition after a grueling workout. Channel 2 Investigates first broke this story in February, and we kept digging into how this happened.
And tonight, our investigation grows bigger. Investigator Mario Diaz joining us now with a new bombshell. Mario?
It was not the first time those soccer players were pushed over the edge. In fact, they were punished months earlier with another dangerous workout that left a player hospitalized. The university is not talking, but players are. I sat down with one woman who describes the punishment the team endured as torture.
Get up. Get the F up. This is your fault. Get up. Just like over and over again.
But it wasn't your fault.
Exactly.
The women's soccer team at the University of Houston forced into a grueling and dangerous workout as a punishment, according to a player involved that day.
He just told us to get up and go to the center of the field. And we all know we've done up-downs before as a punishment, so we all knew we were going to do up-downs. It was just a matter of how many.
It happened early February 2018 and ended with a player in serious medical distress.
It looked like there was a tennis ball sticking out of her arm. The girl took the matters in her own hands. Her and her parents went to the hospital.
Channel 2 Investigates has learned following the punishment workout, the player was hospitalized for nearly 5 days, diagnosed with rhabdomyolysis, known as rhabdo.
Can rhabdo be deadly?
Absolutely. Rhabdo can be deadly.
Dr. Vijay Jatwani is with Houston Methodist Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. He's also the former team physician for the Houston Dash.
Rhabdo occurs when you push yourself past your normal limits. Your muscles are damaged in rhabdo, and those damaged muscles are releasing chemicals in the blood that then damage the kidneys.
With Coach Diego Bocanegra and his staff watching from yards away, then U of H strength coach Minor Bowens executed a punishment workout according to the player. She asked us to keep our identity secret, fearing retaliation by the soccer program and the university.
I remember going in thinking it was going to be a quick 30-minute practice. Instead, we were being punished for something that two people did that had nothing to do with everyone else.
She says it all started the day before.
Two of the girls, they raised their hands slowly, and everyone else still on the team was confused.
Confused because no one was told what actually happened. It didn't matter. The entire team was about to suffer the consequences. The women were ordered to the field.
Hundreds of up-downs.
Up-downs, an exercise similar to the moves seen here.
I was just so mad and confused because of course I was going to keep going because I'm scared, but I'm looking at everyone else and people were crying, barely pushing themselves off the ground.
She says the punishment went on for about an hour.
Some of the coaches were cussing, get the F off the ground. The majority of the team could barely get up and keep going, so they decided to line us up and we had to hold ourselves up in push-up position.
But the majority of girls couldn't keep going.
Yeah, I guess the point was to punish us. No one was gonna say anything. Everyone was so scared, tortured almost.
That's how you felt?
After, yes.
Following planks, the player says the team was forced to repeatedly run several shuttle run drills. Once it was finally over, the team learned the reason for their punishment.
So what did they get accused of?
Stealing food from the football players.
Come again?
Stealing food from the football players.
An entire team physically punished because two girls were accused of taking food designated for the football team. Channel 2 Investigates spoke with multiple parents and players. Fearful of retribution, few spoke on the record. All confirmed the punishment workout.
Others are scared to speak out, and I am too, but someone has to.
One parent, afraid of the consequences for going on camera, tells Channel 2 Investigates it did happen, adding, "I don't like the idea that a punishment was ordered." Physical punishment was not a one-time occurrence in the U of H women's soccer program, according to the player.
One time we didn't have the locker room clean. I think we did like 75. And then Diego told Bowens to stop.
Our investigation reveals Coach Diego Bocanegra relied on it to keep players in line, clearly written in the program's handbook and acknowledged in emails. This email from Bocanegra months after the punishment workout changes course, stating, "We no longer use physical punishment within our team." Other senior leaders knew about the policy too. Bocanegra asked Senior Associate Athletic Director Dejwana Chiser to look at the email and provide input. Chiser raised no red flags, writing, "Diego, this is good. Thanks."
You got everything you need? It's an open event. Hopefully we'll talk to you afterwards.
Coach Diego Bocanegra won't answer our questions, and the head of athletics at U of H, Chris Pesman, decided to pass on the interview opportunity, according to a spokesman.
In terms of new leadership,
but the buck stops with U of H President Renu Couture. Emails obtained by Channel 2 Investigates show on January 29th, 2019, President Couture was made aware of physical punishment within the women's soccer program. Couture forwarded the email to Pesman and the university's general counsel, Donna Cornell, without expressing concerns or asking questions.
If you were a prosecutor right now, and if someone brought this to you, would you open a case?
I would.
Austin-based attorney Rick Flores has prosecuted collegiate hazing cases. He says workout punishments are no different than fraternity hazing cases.
I think it fits the statute of hazing.
The University of Houston's Policies and Procedures Manual clearly defines hazing as any action taken or situation created which, regardless of intent or consent of the participants, produces or is reasonably likely to produce bodily harm or danger.
It can come from a coach, it can come from a trainer, it can come from an administrator, but it's the person at which it's directed that makes it a criminal statute of hazing.
Sitting down with university leadership proved challenging. Coach Diego Bocanegra, athletic director Chris Pesman, and UH president Renu Couture. None of these leaders entrusted with the safety of student athletes would sit down for an interview.
If you were the athletic director for U of H for one day, you were Chris Pesman, what would you do with women's soccer?
I think I would completely take out all the coaches, put in brand new ones, talk to the girls, see their concerns, see what they're looking for, what they want, and try to actually get to the bottom of what's been happening.
Once again, over multiple occasions, we offered the University of Houston a chance to sit down with us. Their communications director sent us a lengthy email last week. It reads in part, "We have chosen not to make Mr. Pesman or anyone else available for an interview in which we believe the line of questioning will be at best prosecutorial in nature for a gotcha news story that we further believe will lack appropriate balance and context." Tomorrow night, you will hear reaction from experts in collegiate sports, as well as a courtroom over what Channel 2 Investigates has uncovered